This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items under the board's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda today. Would any member of the public like to address the board?
Hello, my name is Catherine King. I live in Fraser Park. The taxpayers of the Fraser Mountain communities first suffered the agonizing loss of 2 heritage oaks through the negligence of a contractor. And now we seem to have lost tens of thousands of tax dollars through the negligence of the Board of Supervisors. 3 weeks ago, you voted unanimously to approve Consent Agenda Number 20, which included a change order to pay a construction company $70,000. That payment, which none of you asked a single question about, was related to the heritage oaks at the Fraser Park Library site. Now, a careful document called LPD-1 was created by the architect to preserve those oaks. Trees were to be protected from the trunk to 5 feet beyond the drip line. This document was sort of kept hidden from the public, but the Mountain Enterprise published it on August 20th, soon thereafter. We attach a copy to the letter that I've given you. A building contract which contained LPD-1 was put out to bid. You awarded this $4 million contract to Tilton Pacific Construction. However, Kern County's Office of General Services did not hold these low-bid contractors to the contract specifications outlined in LPD-1. For 8 months, the contractor used neither fences nor mulch. Workers did no hand digging or hand wrapping or hand cutting. Last April, an arborist reported that the trees had been mutilated by construction graders. Graders had cut away the roots of these trees with bulldozers. Kern County ordered the trees cut down. There was no doubt whatsoever that the contractor's breach of contract killed them. We have some questions. How much has the County Services Department demanded the contractor reimburse us from their $4 million contract for services not delivered and for the loss of these trees? If no reimbursements have been secured, why on August 24th did you vote to pay Tilton Pacific Construction $70,000 when the contractor had caused damages which far exceeded that amount? Why pay nearly $10,000 to pull out stumps of trees the contractor had killed through breach of contract? Why pay $60,000 for mulch and fences, as the agenda item said, around 2 oak trees? Not a single supervisor asked a single question about the startling idea that mulch and fences around 2 trees could cost $60,000. Now, after the vote, an outraged community demanded answers, and here's what we got. Mark Russell's August 30 memo to the Mountain Enterprise confesses that the county services made an error in the number of trees receiving fences and mulch. It was 8 rather than 2. Now, $7,500 per mulch tree is certainly better than $30,000. But why were you, our elected representatives, ready to pay $30,000 per tree? Russell also admits that the contractor had billed the county for fencing that it should not have, and that this billing error was only discovered after, quote-unquote, recent inquiries led to, quote, careful perusal of the contractor's breakdown. Why was it public inquiries and not you who demanded this careful perusal? Was your vote on Consent Agenda 20 intended to let both Tilton Pacific Construction and the county off the hook? The one for breach of contract and the other for negligence in not supervising the contract adequately? We certainly hope not. $70,000 could pay the salaries of 2 laid-off county workers. With state and county budgets under huge stress, you ought to hold every county employee and contractor strictly accountable for their use of our hard-earned money. You made a mistake. County workers made a mistake. Taxpayers should not have to pay for this. So we're asking you 3 things. To revisit Consent Agenda 20 Change Order 4 that was on the August 24, 2 p.m. meeting. Reverse payment for items 1 and 7 until it has been shown that taxpayers have been reimbursed for the breach of contract and the loss of those trees. And third, perhaps even most important, pass an oak tree ordinance to protect heritage oaks throughout Kern County. And if you do these things, you will have gone a long way towards making amends to the Kern County taxpayers, including those of the Fraser Mountain communities. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Other public comments?
guess this is how it goes. I'm Linda Robredo. I pass, as you're passing out the letter, a little bit briefer, a little bit shorter. Dear Supervisors, for want of Tilton Pacific Construction's purchasing less than $1,000 of fencing and installing said protective temporary fencing as they were contracted to do, if that would have been done the first week of construction at the worksite of the new public library in Fraser, and the mistakes, the problems, extra costs connected to change orders would not have become an issue. But that is not what happened. I trust the boss, you guys, the Board of Supervisors, will investigate potential inappropriate billing and damage costs due to possible breach of contract that directly changed the safety of the oak trees that were removed June 2010. My intention is not to belabor the painful history connected to the wake-up call on Saturday in June when the trees were killed. Rather, it is my intention to focus positive attention towards development of scenic heritage oak tree ordinance for the greater Fraser Mountain community to shield us from further mistakes and problems. The fact is, guidelines have no teeth. We see clearly that even with contracted requirements to care and protect old growth trees, the contractor has little to lose because there is no ordinance. Only ordinance as law spells out the cost of abusing a heritage oak tree. I believe we who love old growth trees are between a rock and a hard stone until we achieve even limited protection for specifically identified heritage trees in our community as scenic value to the area with a defined cost of abusing the law. Without this minimum level of ordinance, this will go on and on. It is just a matter of time before the abuse happens somewhere else in Kern County. Please provide direction and your valued guidance to revisit Kern County Planning Department's 2004, I believe, oak tree ordinance. Please direct the Planning Department to send the 2004, I believe it was, oak tree ordinance model to the supervisors and to the MAC, the Mountain Communities Municipal Advisory Council's assigned Fraser Oak Tree Committee as a template for the Fraser community to achieve scenic heritage oak tree protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? In view of the fact that this has been a continuing issue in the mountain communities, I would like to refer back to staff, the General Services Department, and the county architect to give a public response to this. I've had a number of discussions with them and have received explanations, but I think it's worthwhile for the public to hear the response to this. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything about an oak tree ordinance at this point.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
All ayes.
And with respect to an oak tree ordinance, that also has been discussed a number of times involving this project up there. I know it was brought before the board. I think the speaker mentioned 2004. I think that's up to the board if you want to bring something forward, or if somebody wants to make a recommendation to the board that we can deal with. But we haven't received anything from the community at this point. Seeing no response, we'll see if we get anything from the community at a later date.